Oh yeah, here we go. Episode 62. Let's do it. Happy Monday. Grab a drink. All right. I mean, happy Monday. Okay. Bada bada bop bop. There we go. Little mood shift. Okay. It's Monday. And we have a great subject today to chat about. I think you're going to have fun today. We got a good group in here already. Let's have a peek. Dan, Jason, William. Who else do we have in here? Peter, Benedetti. Sharky's in the house. What's up, Sharky? How was your day? Dan P. Who else is in here? There's a bunch of other people that don't chat, but that's okay. So listen. My name's Cardone, and this is Evening Hour, episode 62. Tonight's episode is entitled Liberace Cried All the Way to the Bank. That's tonight. It's Mother's Day weekend. And if you're new to the show, hit that stupid subscribe button and the notify and the bell and all that stuff. Yeah, that's how this show works. If you're having fun, the least you can do is hit the subscribe button and the like button. For the other types, the donation, sure, go right ahead. You know why? Because the donors of this show literally paid for all this equipment. So if you donate, it goes right in the show. And if you know what I'm doing, I put a lot of effort into these. No kidding. The equipment's all new and good. And the other thing is the content. I'm always trying to make cool content. And I gotta say, last Friday's show went really well. People loved it. And it just kind of came out of nowhere. So thank you. What else was I gonna say before we start getting into the nitty-gritty? Well, one thing is this. If you are new and you see people in here and there's a crazy thing going on in the chat, go to the description for the show that's down below and you'll see what's going on. We have in-chat gaming. And if you save up enough points, you can buy something on the web store. I've sent out 2 mystery boxes today. I sent one to Ashworth and one to Amanda. And I can't wait to see what you think, because it's a bunch of random fun nonsense, which is what I like to put together. It's kind of fun. The other thing is, Dan, you won the dice roll, and you have some cool stuff on the way to you too, Dan P. So, yeah. Come participate in the chat. Hey, we got Fallon, we got Amanda. You're going to love this tonight. We're talking about Liberace. So if anybody has any stories to tell, put them in the chat. What else do I have to say? Oh yeah, here's my hand cam. This is a really great Liberace book. And in the book, I had this print. It's kind of a weird blown out print. And I realized I should frame this. So this will get framed eventually. And this book is one of my favorite books I own. Oh, wrong button. We've already started. This music's making me relax. What else did I have to say? Yes. Upcoming. Well, personally, upcoming every Thursday I do a magic show, mingle style, meaning I go table to table to table at a music restaurant venue out here at Rockaway Beach called Wits End. And it's getting an upgrade. Starting next week, it's going to have a new element. It's going to have an actual variety show element. Burlesque and magic in a formal setting. And I will also be doing the mingle. So if you live near New York City and you want to have literally one of the best meals of your life and see magic and a burlesque show, Wits End starting next Thursday, not this Thursday, between the hours of 8 and 10. Ah, Lilith says the museum. You know, it's funny. I never got to actually go into the museum, but I do have a book of matches from the museum that I made a little performance piece out of, which I'm going to show tonight. Wow, I want to start this soon. This is such a fun subject. I usually start on the 15-minute mark. You have the cookbook. Ah, yes. I have the paper doll book here somewhere. It's fun with Liberace because there's not that much collectibles. You know, there's not a lot. Not like Elvis. Even though he's wildly popular, Paul and Kelly have that wonderful Liberace bathroom. I remember they had a great Liberace bathroom. Oh my God, Lilith, I would love to know what his bacon recipe... I mean, he liked to eat and cook, I know that. He was one of his hobbies. You know what? Let's get into this silly episode and get it rolling. And it ain't silly at all. I take this very seriously. I mean silly in the fun way. Yeah, let's start this. Let me just check a couple things here. All right, yeah, there we go. Let's talk about tonight right here. Mr. Showmanship, Vlad Valentino Liberace, also known as Walter Valentino Liberace, and known to everywhere in the world as simply just Liberace. Yeah, and you know, the man was a living legend, and now he's literally a legend. And I want to talk about him tonight. There's my mom jumped in. What's up, Mama? Happy Mother's Day again. And I was just getting ready to mention my mom. She's in here right now. Yeah, it was yesterday. It was Mother's Day, and normally I drive to see my mom. I did not get to drive to see you, which upset me, but we did chat. And I was thinking about doing the show tonight. I didn't know what to do. I sometimes a day before these evening hour ones, I don't know. And I was like, well, let's do something Mother's Day themed. What do I... Liberace. And the reason why Liberace came to my mind is one of my fondest memories of being young is going to see the Liberace show with my mom in Atlantic City. And unfortunately, I don't have the tickets or the program that we got. I don't know what happened. I'm pretty good at saving things, and it got lost in the shuffle. It might be in something stuffed. So then I thought, you know what? Let's do it on Liberace. And yeah, let's start. Why Liberace? I mean, my earliest memories of this man were my grandma, Nana, watching him on TV. Anytime he was on, we would watch it. I was attracted to him at an early age because of his energy, his smile, his clothing, his rings, his hair. And he became one of my biggest influences to become a magician, believe it or not. A lot of people ask me, people saying sweet things to my mama. Liberace literally became one of my magic influences, if not one of the biggest ones. I get asked all the time, what magicians influenced you? And my first responses are Elvis and Liberace. And a lot of people don't know this, but Elvis's flamboyance, especially the 70s one that we all know, came because of Liberace. He literally, when Elvis got his first room in Vegas, Liberace was like, look, man, he gave him advice. He said, you got to dress nice. People want to see that. And they're right. We do want to see that. And we wanted to see what Elvis would do with it. And he went all the way. So Liberace was a big influence. And I want to do a little bit about his bio. And then I want to talk about why I like him so much. I'm going to show my little routine that I came up with a while ago. And so yeah, Walter Liberace. His real name is, I can't pronounce it. It's a Polish name. His father was Italian, Liberace, and his mother was Polish. Vladziu, which means Walter in Polish. Valentino was his middle name, and Liberace is his last name. He was born May 16th, 1919. The same year my pappy Cardone was born. And he only passed away a few years ago, which is crazy. Liberace died February 4th, 1987. And I believe I saw... Mom, when did we see his show? Ma, when did we see his show? 83? 84? 85? Somewhere in there. I was like 10. I can clearly remember it, and I'll tell the story. Liberace, at his prime, was the highest paid entertainer on earth. I mean, this guy was entertaining kings and the Pope and everywhere. Oh, wow. Now, why did the grandmas like Liberace? Well, we'll get to that. When he was a kid, he started taking music lessons, and he was pretty good right away, and he became the go-to guy for the piano. If there was some sort of something that needed a piano player, I was 12. Thanks, Mama. So that's 83, 85. Wow, only a few years before he passed away. That's unbelievable. Very lucky we saw him. He was the go-to guy for a piano act in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And he had that wonderful Milwaukee accent. And he, it gave him that Midwest charm, which we'll talk about. Even though he didn't look Midwest, he still had it inside of him the whole time. He had a small town boy mentality. He eventually got a gig in the symphony in Milwaukee, and he was playing in nightclubs. And he had another name for his nightclub act, Walter Buster Keys, which is kind of a funny name. And how he got famous in the nightclub, well, two things. One was someone yelled out to play some song, like not Chopsticks, but something Goldfish. It was the Goldfish song. It was some silly song. Anyway, he was like, I'm going to play it like Beethoven. And then he did it. And then he's like, and now how about Mozart? And now Chopin. And he went through all the classical composers, and they were, the audience went nuts. He knew what to do. He had Shakti. He had creative intelligence. And he had it live. He knew what to do live. The other thing he did is he realized in the nightclub, piano players are a dime a dozen. Really. And he knew, I need to do something a little different to grab their attention, and then they'll pay attention to me a little more. So what did he do? He walked out and he put the candelabra on the piano, and then he started playing. And I'm going to flip the record. Take a guess what kind of record I'm listening to. I got to be careful what music I play on here, or else the live feed will get canned. You probably can't hear this music right now. Can you? It's probably very faint in the background. It's kind of more for me at this point. And then in the early 50s, there was a man who was the first live act musician televised. First one. He was on the West Coast. Anybody know his name? A lot of people here are going to know a lot about him. The man's name, who had the first musical act on television, where he gazed into the camera and played the keys so mysteriously. His name? Korla Pandit. Korla Pandit. Anybody recognize this chap? Well, he had a wonderful TV show. During the afternoon, It was on television. So all the housewives watched it. It was a housewife. It was music. And it was exotica music. He's one of the first exotica musicians. Exotica, how would you define... Lilith, you would have a good definition of exotica. What's a good definition of exotica? Music from other cultures, definitely appropriated into a new form of American audio tchotchke. Wow, that was a... I don't know if that definition was good. Audio tchotchke? Yeah, I don't know. Oh. Wow, someone just made 180 points. So anywho, as you can see, if you're new in here, there's people playing games in the chat, and you can do it too. You can gamble your points and win them and get prizes. So, Corla Pandit, a little side story, and I should do a show on him. He was an Indian gentleman who stared into the camera and played the keyboard, and he got famous for that. When he got older, he's in the film Ed Wood. It's his last appearance, I believe. When Ed Wood throws the after party for Glenn or Glenda, guess who's playing the piano? Corla Pandit, which is crazy because the real Corla Pandit didn't age much. And faraway places feeling. Lush, oh, here we go. Here's the definition Lilith gave me. Lush music that has a faraway places feeling. Yeah, it's exotic. It's from a faraway, mysterious land, and that's the music. Martin Denny's, I would say, the king, and maybe Corla Pandit's the great-grandfather of it all. What people didn't realize is Corla Pandit had something up his sleeve that he was hiding. A mystery. And the mystery wasn't found out until after he passed away. Corla Pandit was an African-American gentleman. And his whole life, he pretended like he was a mysterious man from India. Even his family didn't know, his immediate family. When he passed away, they found out, and they were kind of shocked. Look it up. There's a documentary on him. It's beautiful. He's an interesting man. But he had a secret. He thought business-wise, it was more successful as a mysterious man from India. And if you look at him, that guy could pass for all sorts of things. Really. So, he had the look to pull it off. I love it. Such a weird mystery. Well, anyway, sidetracked, but that's good because it's part of the story. Corla Pandit had this TV show, and he had a contract disagreement, and they let him go. So guess who came in next? Number 2, Liberace. He was on TV. Oh, here we go. Bam! Lilith, thank you. Lilith is the dramaturg for tonight's episode. Thank you, Lilith. Corla Pandit, born John Roland Redd. What a cool name. John Roland Redd. He was an American musician, composer, pianist, and organist. After moving to California in the 40s, getting involved in show business. I love this. Corla Pandit, the French Indian musician from New Delhi, India. Wow. Beautiful. Yeah, he invented a character, and he stuck to it. Well, Liberace showed up, and Liberace, although he wasn't mysterious, Liberace, I would never call him that, but he was warm, and he had the smile, and the face, and the eyes, and he talked. Corla Pandit didn't talk. Corla Pandit just looked in the camera and played. So it was just music. I guess it was cool for housewives at the time in the 50s because they would just put it on the boob tube, let it play, and it was music, and you could watch it as a visual. Kind of an early MTV's kind of thing, maybe. Well, Liberace did more than that. He made a connection. He looked into the camera and he talked to everybody. And that's where he really, I think, took off. And that's also why his fan base, when I was a kid, were grandmas. Because think about it, in the 50s, it was all the housewives. And then a little later, they were like in the late 60s, early 70s. They were in their 40s and late 30s. And then by the time when I was a kid, in the 80s, they were the grandmas. So they grew up watching him on TV, and he was a matinee idol of sorts, you know? And he also, because of his warm character, he became a perfect pitchman. People wanted him to be the name of their product. Now, Liberace also had a secret, like Corla Pandit, although his was very different. And his secret, which was quite obvious to those in the know, was that he was gay. He was a gay man in the, in show business, which at the time I think was common, but at the time it was still taboo and no one talked about it publicly. Yeah, we'll get into the details of this because it's a very fascinating thing. I have many questions about it. Now, I want to mention something. This is very important. Liberace loves sparkles and fur like no one else. I mean, it's funny. I mean, he really did. I mean, he's such a cool guy. We're going to get into when we get into later on some details, we're going to have fun. So, one of his sayings that everybody knows is he cried all the way to the bank. Well, I did a little research on it, and his first thing that he said wasn't that. He was responding to a critic, and he said the critic gave him a bad review. The reason why he got bad reviews is he was a classical musician, but he realized by jazzing them up and turning them into more pop songs, he was going to be able to sell it to the new crowd, which is kind of cool. He took classical music to an audience that might never have liked it as much. So he got ripped by the critics, the music critics. And the quote is, "Thank you for your very amusing review. After reading it, in fact, my brother George and I laughed all the way to the bank." So that's the first quote. Wow, I can't wait to read this quote. Someone just wrote something hilarious. Well, then that quote turned to that they cried all the way to the bank. And then later on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, he was like, "No, I don't cry to the bank anymore. I bought the bank." So he used that through his whole career. Liberace was such an interesting man because he realized that by making fun of himself and making fun of his glitz and his wealth, it made it fun and took the sting out of it all. Lilith wrote, "The older ladies running the museum told me he was not gay. He just liked pajama parties with men." That's a cute way to put it. Fallon, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he bought the bank. It's great. I always thought, and it's the old saying, to be a real wizard, you have to have a sense of humor. To me, Liberace is the ultimate wizard magician. The ultimate. He is a master wizard, was and as powerful as all the other. He has more magic powers than almost every magician I know. I look to him for more guidance on what to do for my magic business and my shows than any magician. Let's see here. What did I write here? So, okay. Let's get into his gayness, because it is kind of fun and juicy. Rick Sherman has 709 points. Wow. What's up, Rick Sherman? How are you? So, the critics said he was gay. They called him a fruit line something. They used the word fruit in England in one of the tabloids, and he didn't like that. He thought it was slanderous and going to hurt his career, so he sued and won. He did. Now, the reason why that's interesting is because of what I'm going to talk about next. How many of you saw the film Behind the Candelabra? It was a HBO movie here, and in England, I believe it actually went to the movie theaters. Now, I'm going to be honest. I liked the movie a lot. I thought it was a really well-made film. It was funny. It was fun. It was sad. But it ain't the truth. And you know what I have to say? Um, Fact and truth are very different. Most of the time, we'll never know the truth. If we're lucky, we'll get a hair of it. And fact is everywhere. And fact is dangerous. And I don't like biopics because they become the fact. I can't stand it. Every time I see there's a new biopic coming out, I'm like, oh, it's gonna become the new fact. And I don't like that. Well, there's some things in that film that bothered me, and I'm gonna talk about them. First of all, they used the Disgruntled Lover's book to make the movie. And the disgruntled lover being Scott Thorson, his lover and confidant, and he was in the show, and a good friend. They were friends. And in the film, there's two things that were just like, whoa. One of them is Scott Thorson says Liberace kind of made him get a facelift to look like Liberace. I don't buy it. And two, and this is one I can prove right now. There's a scene where they go to like a gay club and Liberace's doing his thing. That would never have happened. Liberace couldn't do that publicly for two reasons. A, he didn't want anybody to know he was gay. And two, he sued the newspaper and won. He didn't do that in public. There's no way he would have risked that in public. So that's totally not true. Which to me brings into question all the other stuff in the film. It does show how wonderful he is on stage and his... whatever. The movie's good. Michael Douglas as Liberace, outstanding. Matt Damon as Scott Thorson as his boyfriend, great. And the love scenes between the two are outrageous and a must-see. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm not a TV guy. When that movie came out, I got HBO just to watch the movie. And my kids were there. And dude, I raised my kids pretty openly, even movies they probably were a little older for them. Instead of hiding it from them, I would show it to them and explain to them what's going on in detail. So we were watching the Liberace movie. My daughter was pretty little at the time. And there's a very gay scene in the film. And my daughter's like, now I know what gay is. That's what she said. And I was like, whoa, this is pretty wild. The movie's delightful. It's sad. It's touching. It's Rob Lowe in it is fantastic as the plastic surgeon. I do think everybody should see it. Just so you know, it ain't true. A lot of it's not real. It really does. It makes him look great, but it also gives him this edge of, it's a little weird. And, maybe he had some edge to him, but I don't know. The ex-lover and him had a bad mess. It seemed like he broke up with the guy, and the guy didn't like it. So he sued him, and it went nuts. And he wrote a book, and it was scandalous, and it just seems not real. So, aside from that, let's just talk about Liberace himself. Why do people like him? Why do you guys like him? So as a study for a performer, okay. Well, if you see his show, he played the piano, but it was so much more than that. He changed his costume every 5 seconds. He had special effects. He had humor. When I saw his show, now we're going to talk about when I saw his show. I remember he showed 2 films. One is the very beginning of the show. A screen comes down, and you can watch it on YouTube, the movie. Look up Liberace intro, and you'll see it. It's a film of him at home and getting ready for the show. And in it, you get to see his awesome bathroom. And there's his bathtub. And he's getting ready for the show. And then he gets in his limo. That's his house. And then he drives to the venue. And then the limousine pulls up in front of the venue. And then on the stage that you're at in the theater, the limo pulls out and he gets out with a frickin' mink coat that's like 30 feet long. And so here's my memory of seeing it as a child. Mom, which casino was it at? I thought it was at the Caesars, but I could be wrong. So Franola, I call my mom Franola. We were at the Swans, I know. We were in Atlantic City because my dad had to go there for work. There was some sort of conference. Now, we never did this. We never went to work conferences. This was the only one I ever remember being a part of. Most of the time, they would have left me at my grandma's house. I don't know why I got to go, but I got to go. And it was kind of bad because there's nothing for kids to do in Atlantic City. Nothing. I wasn't even allowed to walk through the casino. So I just remember being in the hotel. I remember going on the boardwalk, and I remember my mom saying, yo, do you want to see Liberace? She didn't say yo. She said, you want to see Liberace tonight? And I was like, yes, of course. Why would I not? And so she's like, all right, we'll try to get tickets. So it was me, my mom, and another one of my dad's. It was Dr. Murray's wife. It was the superintendent of the school district's wife. I don't remember her name. There was 3 of us. And I remember I got dressed up and we went into the casino and we sat not in the middle and not the last, but somewhere in between. And we were at a table because it was table style. It wasn't theater style. And I remember my mom saying, you can get 1 drink, sip it slow. And back then it was like $5. So in 1985, that was a lot of money for one Coca-Cola. So I had my Coke, and I remember the movie, and the thing, I remember the whole show. I remember about 5 songs in, a screen comes down, and they did an entire episode on a film on his rings, each one, where they came from. He had a really cool piano ring. I mean, just beautiful stuff. And I remember him flying. They didn't have the dancing waters. And I do remember I had to use the restroom. And my mom said, okay, I'm going to give you $1. I was like, well, okay. When you go in, there's going to be a man that hands you a paper towel. It was the first time I had experienced that. I had never seen that my entire life. And I remember going in the bathroom because I was with 2 ladies. I wasn't with a guy. And I walked in and I peed. I washed my hands. And I remember the guy giving me the paper towel and I was a little perplexed at the guy in the bathroom with the whole setup, mints and candies, and just a weird place to have that. I still to this day think it's a little weird. Especially when they have lots of things. I'm like, who hangs out in here? Now, I know women go in the bathroom in these fancy places and they're fixing their makeup up, but what the heck do guys do? I mean, we wash our hands and get out. Cologne? Do men really put cologne on in the bathroom? No one carries what I wear, so. And I remember seeing the show, and I remember I was doing magic already. I wasn't making bread yet, or I was just getting ready to. It was like right at the edge. Yes. Okay, I'm going to talk about why I wear rings too tonight, because I love wearing rings. Liberace, that show woke me up to what show business really was. I got to see one guy, hold the crowd the whole time. Yes, Peter, they are bizarre, right? I mean, the whole time, like, it's just him. And he wasn't just playing the piano. He was talking about his life. He was talking about his loves, his passions. He was making fun of himself. He showed that he liked costumes. His flamboyance was just everywhere. And it wasn't hidden. It wasn't masked. His gayness was everywhere without even saying it. He didn't have to say it. It was just there. And maybe that's why my question was always, was he really sad that he had to stay in the closet? Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. I'm not a gay man, so I don't know what that would be like. I can't even fathom it. I would love to know, but maybe he maybe he just thought it's no one's business. You know? I get it. Who cares what people do behind closed doors or anything? Like, it's his own business. Maybe he liked that. I don't know. But his flamboyance is just. I mean, he's the king. No one comes close to this day. Well, there's a Japanese guy that comes. There's a Japanese Liberace that you should know about. Mikawa Kenichi. Look him up. We'll talk about him maybe at the end. Remind me. Amazing performer. I liked that he was, and I wrote down some, the other day I was just like, what? I wanted to write down the words that came into my mind when I think of Liberace. In bold, first one, beautiful and bold. Beauty. He had an eye for beauty. He liked beautiful things. He liked white fur and gold and glitz and glamour, but he liked it to the point of it becoming its own thing. You know, I never liked richy things, you know, like perfectly tailored suits and fancy watches. I never liked that, but I like it when it's taken really far. I like bling when it's beyond bling, and Liberace was that. I started wearing rings because I had a horrible scar on this finger. You can't see it. It was there. Well, let me see if you can. This finger right here had a scar. So I started wearing rings on this hand. Now, I don't always wear rings on this hand because of the magic I do. My goal was to always... Oh, yes! Walter Mercado. Sí, señorita. I love him. He was amazing. He is the Puerto Rican Liberace psychic. Folks, if you don't know Walter Mercado, look him up. His name's in the chat. Yeah, another Liberace guy. All of these people just let it out. And I also really admire that Liberace always had a small town character. And he let it out in the show. He was a mama's boy. I guess you can call me a mama's boy. He was a small town mama's boy who always talked about his brother George, which there's a Bugs Bunny reference in there. And he seemed like a homebody. You know, he liked to cook and hang out at home. He was a craftsman. He practiced. He could play the piano very well. Now, I am not a master of classical pianists, so I might not notice his imperfections or certain ways that he plays classical music, but he could. He could play the hard stuff. And I think that gave him the edge, too, that he needed to really do it. Yeah, his femininity, he definitely had a feminine side that was clearly there. You know, it wasn't hidden at all. It was just a part of his character. I loved the fact that the old ladies adored him. Even when I was little, I was like, wow, why do all the grandmas like him? This is so fascinating. He understood that if you're going to ask people to come watch you, give them something to look at. Do it. You know, if you're going to ask them to sit and stare at a space, make the space have a meaning. Give it a layer of meaning and quality. Oh, yeah, Elvis's bling was... Oh, yeah, that's why I always say Elvis and Liberace. Both of those guys, they're both small town mentality people with a flamboyance like you can't believe. To me, those were my heroes. They were both came from humble beginnings. Elvis was born in a one-room house, and Liberace very just small, humble beginnings. And you could always feel it inside of their heart. You know, it was always there. He always had a big smile, Liberace, and it came through. And I remember at the end of his live show, one of the grand finales was he picks a lady out of the crowd and he dances with her. And he sings I'll Be Seeing You, which is one of his hit songs that he would sing. The main thing that I gained from Liberace, the big ones for a performer, is watching him. You knew he loved doing what he was doing at that very moment. He was in the spot, in his glory, feeling the crowd's love, and giving it right back. And every minute, he loved sharing his piano. He loved sharing his costumes. And you could feel it in the crowd. His one joke he does at the beginning of his show. Yvette Shields. You saw him in Vegas when you were 5. Well, there you go. You're lucky. When I tell people I got to see Liberace, they're like, what? And I go, yeah, that's why I tattooed him on my arm. A lot of people don't know that, but yes, I have a big fat Liberace tattoo on my arm. It's a commemorative of him changing my life, seeing a show. I felt lucky to be. I remember when I saw it, I felt lucky. I was like, wow, I get to watch performance royalty is how I looked at him. And he had a joke, one of his really funny jokes. He's walking down. I know what he would do. He would let people look at his rings, and he'd be like, look at him. Yeah, touch it. Go ahead. Yeah, you paid for him. You know, he's like, you guys are the ones that bought them for me. Another one is he's walking down with he goes, oh, my fur coat, it's Virgin Fox. And the lady's touching it. He goes, you like it? And he goes, takes one to know one. I was like, what? Oh, wow. You saw Elvis too. Oh, my God. Oh. That is just blows my mind. I never got to see Elvis. I would have been 4 or 5 at the time when he passed away. And I remember when he died because it was all over the news. But Liberace, getting to see that show really inspired me to be who I am. And I want to show you something. Okay. So I have a pack of matches from the Liberace Museum. And this magic trick I'm going to do, the prop was invented by a man named Don Wayne. And he's long gone, I believe. And he used to come up with tricks. Don Wayne was a consultant for David Copperfield. So he had a very sharp mind on what could be magical. And I always thought that the trick was cool with this. It's with a Liberace matchbook. The trick's cool, but it needs a layered context without saying it. So I decided to do this with matches from the Liberace Museum. I'm going to show it to you now. Here it is. And that's my little Liberace trick. um, yeah, it's simple. I like simple stuff. Um, that trick's not really me as a performer influenced by Liberace. That was more of just Liberace influencing that match trick. Just his vibe. Um, yeah, I don't know why. But I gotta say, really, and I'm not kidding, like Liberace's structure of his show, he doesn't even play the piano for a while. There's the spectacle of the limo coming out and the costumes, and he does a costume change, and he tells a bunch of jokes, and then he gets into the piano. And then when he does do the piano, it really gets, Zalthon laying the law. Sorry. Somebody just wrote something and Zalthon stepped in. Sorry. He's a tyrant. I don't know what happened. And he, in the show, it's shaped with these moments of music. And the music itself, he made interesting. Meaning, he tricked it out. He would do stunts. He would play famous songs in different styles. He would sometimes take requests. Sometimes he would, like for instance, he would play Boogie Woogie, right? And then he would do Boogie Woogie 16th to the bar. So it's like a speed metal song on the piano. And he did it to show off. And not only did he learn how to play that way, he learned how to flare with his hands. He knew, like, when he would play, he would lift them up, and he's playing with these rings. He always had a mirrored piano bar so that you could see his hands better. He knew that that was part of the show, watching him play. And I always thought that when I would play my bass guitar in the band I tour in, as Toilet Boys, I would naturally exaggerate certain things because when you play in the big venues, you want to look cool for the dude in the far away. You know? I learned that early on. Like, when you're doing a show in a theater that's big, you have to play to the back. That's it. I have some friends that are performers that people don't like. They think they're cheesy. I hate the word cheesy. I never use that word. It's very rare I call something cheesy. I always hated that word. A lot of things that people think are cheesy, I think are very tender and nice. So I have a couple magician friends that people think are cheesy, and I'm like, have you ever seen them in a theater? No. Well, then don't call him cheesy, dummy. Sit in the last row of the theater, watch that guy perform, and you tell me if he's cheesy. And I'll tell you right now, he ain't cheesy. He's playing to the last crowd, to the last row. He knows that his arms need to exaggerate just a little bit more, you know? And I always knew that. With magic or music, it didn't matter. It's all the same thing. It's all the same. That's what people don't get. It's not what you're doing, it's just how you're doing it. And that's what he was. He was a master at the how. He's just a guy playing the piano, changing his clothes. Who cares? But it's him. And he infused in that show himself. So if you learn anything from this show tonight, if you're a performer and you're new at performing, everything in that show was him, his true self, his actual core of who he was. He was in the show. Here's a little thing. A question to ask when you see a performer, whether it be a comedian or a magician or a pianist. What did you learn about that performer personally after seeing the show? Whenever somebody sees a magician, I always ask that. What did you learn about the guy? What did you learn anything about his character? Jason. Yes. Lawyers and politicians are cheesy. Yes. I'll even take lawyers out. Let's just say politicians are cheesy. God. Do you, not a side joke, do you know that almost every single politician, all of them, have about 70 lobbyists assigned to them? Think about that. Whew. Ugh. Horrible. Anywho, infusing your character in a show. Now, I know what I was going to say. Yeah, magicians, when I say, what did you learn about the guy? Nothing. I learned that he likes magic. I learned that when he was a little boy, his dream was to be a magician. That's every magician. I want to know what they like to eat. I want to know what they do. Like, everything about that person when they walk out on stage should be them in their rawest, truest form, turned to 11. That's it. That's the secret. And I don't really like, I know a lot of performers that will go, I'm going to make the magic show about me. So therefore, instead of doing a trick with this, because I like skateboarding, it's going to be skateboard tricks. That's okay, but it still might not work. Even though the person likes skateboarding, it might seem like a put on, like a blanket put over top of something to decorate something boring. Or, as I always say, to be clever. I'm going to do something clever. I don't like clever, so I like this quote, Fallon. I'm going to read it in a second. You guys are great. Tonight's a good crowd. Tonight's a sharp crowd. I don't like it when it seems clever or contrived. I want it to seem real. And you look at Liberace and you're like, boy, is that contrived, those outfits. But they're not. And you know how you know they're not? Go look at his house. Look at how he lived. Look at his closet in his house. I mean, his wardrobe and his dining room table, and he loved it. He created a total environment. He made a world in which he could live, be inspired, and thrive. That's what he did. And he needed that to be who he was. So when you saw him on stage, it was easy. He walked out and he just let it out. He didn't have to hide anything. His gayness, which is fun. Yvette Shields being, I love it that you don't know what's going on. Yvette, you have points. You don't know you do. Hit exclamation point, then write the word points. Right beside it, though, no space. Go ahead, Yvette. I'll wait. No, I'm not going to wait. Yeah, you'll see you have points. Once you get those points, you can gamble them, chat. You'll get lots more points by chatting. And you can spend them in the web store. There's a little store. I mean, dude, look at this bathroom. I mean, this is just ridiculous. That's his tub. Look at the spigots are swans. I mean, come on. Ridiculously beautiful. He also collected pianos and cars. And you know, it's funny. His ex-lover, Liberace, criticized him because he was like, when he was at home, he never played those pianos. Well, duh. He probably didn't play them that much after a while because he played the piano all the time. It's like me. Like, if you come hang out at my house, I am not going to be doing magic tricks all the time. If you come to hang out at my house, you probably won't see me do a magic trick. If you ask me, I, of course, would, but I don't do that. To me, magic's better when it's rare. Maybe he thought that too. Maybe he thought his pianos were magic. And the more you hear, it's not as special. I mean, really, the guy clearly liked this stuff. He also had, I believe, a piano that belonged to Chopin. I always pronounce his wrong. Is it Chopin or is it Chopin? He was a big fan. Well, Graceland, I've been to Graceland, and I will say it is a beautiful place. It's truly stunning. Elvis also created a total environment. I can't do what I like to do, meaning write or create routines or write music, unless I'm literally surrounded by things that stimulate my imagination. When I'm in a bad mood or I'm feeling a little down, I literally lay on the floor and either, I have a few rooms here. You've only ever seen this room. I would like to shoot this show in some of the other rooms. The problem is my setup now is kind of elaborate, so it's a little hard to do. Oh, here we go. Yvette's is risking. So you had 6 points. Let's see. You're either going to lose them all. Hey, Yvette. You just lost your points. That's okay. You'll get them back by chatting. What are we talking about? Anywho, I'm starting to ramble now. I don't want to ramble. I want to wrap this show up. Mondays are my favorite day of the week. Talking about philosophy is one of my favorite things. And Liberace was, I wouldn't call him a philosopher. He was a religious man. He was definitely very Catholic. But I would say on a philosophy, he definitely had some stoic in him because he found his nature and he was living according to it. I don't know what his thoughts were on the simplicity of it all, because to me, it's all grand. One of the other things he loved was the Mae West saying, too much of a good thing is wonderful. I agree. Too much of a good thing is wonderful. But I do, as being a Stoic myself, I realize it's all temporary. And I can be happy without any of it. And I'm curious of what his thoughts were on that. I'm sure he would say the same. I think, at the tombstone of Elvis, I cried. I get choked up thinking about it. The first time I went to Elvis's grave, I remember standing there just like, wow, this man he's influenced a lot of people, me a lot. But I mean, when I was there, I couldn't believe it. Beautiful moment. I've never been to Liberace's grave. I will one day, hopefully visit. But I wonder what Liberace would have thought. I guess I would put him, I would not call Liberace an epicurist. I would say he might have been an epicurist in the dictionary sense, but not on the philosophy sense, because the epicurist drank bread and water. He definitely fit into the hedonistic of the Greek stuff, but he had a humble heart. He really did. So maybe he really was that, a Stoic at heart. He realized that it was temporary, and I'm sure when he got the news that he wasn't going to be alive much longer, I don't know. I would like to know a little bit about personally what he did, like how he dealt with it. How we live is how we die, and how we die is how we lived. And I would hope that if I get the news that I'm going to croak in a week or a month or a year or 5 years or whatever, that I'm able to look it right in the eye and say, okay. And I'm going to end on this. This is going to be the end thought, and I want you to think about this, because it really gives me goosebumps to think about it. Seneca, one of his letters, I was reading about facing death, and he wrote about facing death a lot. Memento mori, looking at the Grim Reaper right in the eye, and not just saying, I'm not afraid of you, but this is the big one, willfully walking to it when it's time. That's the one. What does that mean? Willfully walking to it, saying, I've had enough. Will that come to me? Will I be able to do that? I think I would. I really do. Because I think about it now. Now, I won't say I've had enough now, but if I croaked tomorrow, I would say, I got to do everything I wanted to do already. All my wishes came true. I'm making new wishes now, which is kind of wild. Being middle-aged and making new wishes like the way I did as a kid, like things I thought I would like to do or try, or maybe I'll get to do this one day. I'm doing that now with new stuff, but all the ones that I dreamt up as a child, they came true. And I think I would be able to walk to the Grim Reaper and say, okay, let's go. I've had it. It's okay. And I don't believe in an afterlife. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I get to go party in the afterlife. Nah, it's okay. The oblivion void, it's not pleasing nor is it not pleasing. It's just nothing. And that is a concept that, you know, it's a lot of people don't like to think about. I always think about what I was before I was born, and that's where I'm going. So it's the old, you know, it's okay. I have to thank for my dreams coming true, having good role models, Liberace, Elvis, and my mama. On that note, I'm going to swig my water and celebrate Monday. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching. If you're new to this channel, folks, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you like to donate to shows, hey, this show you can donate to. There's a link in the description to where to donate. You can click on it. I don't have it set up yet for monetization. Why? Because I'm not at 1,000 yet. That's why I need you to hit that subscribe list. If you donate, my money goes in the show. It ain't going in my pocket yet. I'm spending money on the show. And if you're having a good time, come back for more. I'm here live 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm getting the hiccups. Folks, we had a good crowd in here tonight. Everybody, each and every one of you, thank you, Yvette. Thank you, Dan. Amanda, Sharky, my mama's in the house, Lilith. Thank you guys for watching, really. Fallon, Jason, Dan, William's in here somewhere. Who else is in here? Peter Benedetti. We got Ashworth. We got a great crowd. From the bottom of my heart, I'm truly flattered that you guys come here to watch this stuff. So I'll always try to do my best. On that note, I'm out of here, folks. Where are we here? Zalthon says thank you for being a good crowd tonight. And I'm going to take you out with my end credits. I'll see you Wednesday. Party on, Wayne.